Hey guys, so just yesterday we got a very big news drop in the form of a YouTube video regarding the new DLC for Minecraft Dungeons. And today I want to talk with you about what we did see there and what are my thoughts on the new stuff that is shown to us here. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So in the first part they are talking about the paid part, which is the DLC that you have to buy, not the free content patch, and that we will get a new 6 missions here, which is quite different from the other DLCs of before. There we had 3 missions, one of which always was a secret mission. So you have 6. I'm guessing we will have 5 main missions and 1 secret mission, as those 5 missions correspond to the 5 biomes, I would say, that you can have in the Nether. And those biomes are the Nether Wastes, the Basalt Deltas, the Warped Forest and the Crimson Forest, as well as the Soul Sand Valley and the Nether Fortress. So you can see that we have all the biomes of the Nether. Together with the fortress make 6, so each biome will be 1 map, and one of them will be the secret map. And I'm thinking that the secret map might be the fortress, but also maybe not, because I'm thinking the boss that we can expect in the Nether will be the Wither. And with the Wither being the boss, it just makes sense to put him into the fortress, just from a game design perspective. So maybe the secret mission will be the Soul Sand Valley or something, I don't know. Usually I was pretty confident on my guesses, and regarding the previously leaked stuff I was always pretty on point with my guesses, but this time I'm not. I can't really tell you. I guess we just have to wait and be excited for that. And there they speak about the Gilded Items, which are a new form of unique weapons that we can find. And these items will have an extra randomized built-in enchantment on them. Now I'm not sure how this will work, if we will have one random built-in enchantment as we are used to from the enchantment selection that we can enchant the items with, or if we get a random stat that is like a baked enchantment on the other items so far that we cannot enchant our items so far with. It doesn't really matter which one of those it is, or if it's maybe both, but it will be very hard to get your favorite and best in slot item. You have to get the perfect item type that you want with the perfect 3 enchantments that you want to put on it, and the bonus randomized enchantment has to be the one that you're looking for as well, from the pool of all of the other enchantments that could be on there. So this is basically like getting a mystery armor plus, and for all of you who have tried farming a mystery armor with the perfect enchantments, you know how hard it is. I mean, you can see that I'm still wearing the speedrun mystery armor that I had about 5 or 6 months ago already. Like this item, I couldn't replace it. There was just no other way, and this is the only mystery armor that I found that is really playable. So yeah, it's really hard to get a good one. They're also saying that these gilded items will cost more enchantment points to enchant, but to be honest, the most players are level 200 and above, so it doesn't really matter anymore. Then they go ahead and talk about the ancient Huns. And here they're talking about that the players can make their own missions. So they are basically saying that you can input gear in certain orders and in certain ways, probably based on rarity and item types. And then these missions will take different shapes and have different attributes or special events on them. I'm thinking that this will shape out kinda like the daily trials that we currently have in the game, so that we see the same like affixes and changes to them. Maybe they expand on that as well, but I think this will be the base concept of it. But the dungeon generation will be hopefully a little bit more random than we are used to. Think of the Creepy Crypt map, for example. Like whenever you enter it, it's basically randomized a whole lot more than most of the other maps. The map is always different. There are always different parts stick together in a different way. Of course you have some key positions, and I'm hoping that they leave out these key positions here. And what I'm really hoping for this game mode is that they leave out the marker that points you towards the end, so that you really have to explore and clear the map. This will make it more interesting in my opinion. Now they're also going to say that there will be some unique surprises in this map. I'm guessing that there's like maybe you find 2 obsidian chests in one generation, and if you remember the way you input your items, you can share that with the community and everyone can generate this map. So basically this is basically like the base game of Minecraft, where you input a seed when you generate a map. It should work kind of like this, that you put in the items in a specific order and way, and that you by that generate a seed, and you can then hand over the seed that you had to other players. So you can challenge each other to speed runs, you can do grind runs because you found a very specific map that you can grind specific items and mobs and have specific chest chest locations on them. This actually adds a lot of depth to the game in my opinion. Like you can really do things now. You can compare strengths between different builds, very reliable because the map will be the same all the time if you just input the same order of items. So this is actually a big value point for me. Speedrunning before was always determined by RNG. Like you know from the older guides that I made where you can reach the highest power level very fast, that this was always based on RNG. Like I made a lot of speedruns there trying to get to the max power level as fast as possible. Sometimes I made it in less than 3 hours and sometimes it took me 5 hours. They also say that Apocalypse Plus has no direct influence on the Ancient Huns. For the Ancient Huns you can just select your difficulty like you can do for every other map. Also they shortly mentioned that they will expand on Apocalypse Plus, so we will probably see a few more difficulty levels, and that will also mean that we will see a few more power levels. So yeah, that will be a little bit more grinding for us to do, but yeah, as you know, I don't think it will take us very long. Like to reach Apocalypse Plus 20 when they released it was a thing of about 1 hour, so I don't think that it will take us very long to do. But they're also saying that they will rebalance Apocalypse Plus, and this is actually pretty important because Apocalypse Plus got a little bit better in my opinion with the last update, but many players still complained about Apocalypse Plus being very hard, and I found myself in different missions later on after playing the update a little bit longer, where yes, I agree, it was still sometimes not really playable. So I'm thinking that rebalance is still needed there, and hopefully they do it properly and that they finally have the feel for the balance that they promised us to have like months ago.
We have a feel for the balance, a feel for the balance.
And then they're talking about the new mobs. Here you can see the piglin warriors and the wither skeletons, blazes, and all of that stuff that you see in the base game, but they also say that there will be some special changes to it. For example, the piglin fungus thrower, which is a completely new mob. It probably works a little bit like the witches do, as you can see. They throw a fungus and then they have this like poisonous cloud effect on the ground. It's basically the same as the witch poison. You can also see that we can fight ghasts. Sadly, they didn't do it the way I thought it would. Like, I thought a really cool way of introducing ghasts would be that they float on the side of the map, that you can't really walk to them. Like, they float where you would fall off the cliff, and that you have to attack them with ranged attacks and that they keep following you on the sides until they die. Or you can just dodge their attacks and keep them on your side if you don't want to waste time. This would be a little interesting twist to the just standard gameplay that we have. But yeah, just killing a ghast like that's also fine, I guess. And then they go ahead and talk about the piglin merchant. And this is actually a really interesting topic because I think he's more like the luxury merchant. Nothing special about him really, just that he takes the gold. And the gold is the resources that you mainly gather from the Nether DLC. Now they say that he will trade us extremely exclusive and special items, but looking at the footage here we can see that this is just an ordinary rare daggers with 2 filled enchantment slots. Like, there's nothing special about it, he just wants gold for it instead of emeralds. And the way you get the gold is that you go in some rooms, they call it the golden rooms, and in there you will find some golden chests and they will drop the gold for you. Now they also said that they are Nether exclusive. I don't know if that includes the Ancient Huns or not, but I guess we will see. And then they go ahead and talk about new gear, and this is probably very interesting for most of you because they did show us a lot of detail on the gear. Like, the very first thing that we go to see is the Pride of the Piglins, a crossbow with a chance to fire piercing bolts, which is, yeah, it's okay, I would say. It's not too exciting. And wind-up attacks. I think you can hold the attack button down, charge the weapon, and then it fires really fast. Like, it has a high speed ratio, so I'm guessing that is kind of how it works. From the footage that we see in game, we can't really clearly tell how it will work, but I think something like this will be likely. Then we see the base version of that, the cork crossbow, just has wind-up attack. Nothing too special here. The Sprout armor. This is a vine-shaped like armor, like the forest biome in the Nether. It heals nearby allies when you use a potion. This is a really old and rarely used affix, so I don't think that this is really good. But traps and poisons nearby mobs when rolling, I think is kind of like the Bag of Seeds artifact that we already have, that it entangles and poisons mobs when used. So that could be interesting with a rolling build, like with using 3 feathers. some artifact cooldown on it. And maybe if you have the unique version, which we'll have a look at in a second here, if you get that with the bonus stat from being gilded, maybe there could be some potential here for a really strong build. Like, I see potential on this item. Then we have the Living Vines armor. This is the unique version of that armor, and it also reduces roll cooldown. That synergizes well with its base concept, and I think with a couple enchantments you can actually get that thing to work. I think that could be something. I'm seeing the most potential probably in this item so far. Then we have the Golden Piglin armor here. You can get consumables on potion use. Consumables are not too useful. Reset artifact cooldown on potion use is actually something interesting. I thought about it a while, and I feel like it's not good enough. Like, it can't compete with just straight up artifact cooldown, because for the potion to reset your artifacts, which is generally pretty powerful, but you need potion cooldown, and you don't have that much potion cooldown. Like, you have to get it as a unique affix on that armor, if that's even possible, only with the gilded or with a new enchantment. So I just don't think it's good enough. That's it. I think straight up artifact cooldown is better, and if you have artifact cooldown on this armor, then the potion thing will do nothing for you, because if you get artifact cooldown, you want to aim for constant use of your artifacts. That doesn't do much for you anyways. Then we see a normal piglin armor with the reset artifact cooldown on potion use and artifact damage. Nothing too exciting here. Then we see a bone club, an unique version, extra damage to illagers and great pushback. So it's basically a claymore with bonus damage to illagers. I don't have any special feelings for this item. I don't like it. It's probably useless. Then we see the basic bone club, has nothing interesting, just great pushback. Doesn't really matter. The Weeping Vine bow actually gives you charged arrows after roll. Depending on new enchantments that we might see or might not, this could work together with the other armor, but I'm thinking if we do a roll build with the trapping and poisoning stuff, it will still be Winter's Touch that we will be using. Simply because this unique just doesn't have another effect. Like, this is the only thing that it has. This is actually pretty weak for a unique bow. And here we have the Twisting Vine bow, which is just a short bow. Like, the stats say short bow, and it doesn't have anything on it. That is a little bit sad. I hope they add a little bit special something to it, like just something? Something. Please give this bow some love. This bow needs some love, please. We also see the Broken Saw Blade, a weapon that is used commonly in the footage that we see in the background the whole time. It has continuous attacks. This could be good or bad. Let me tell you why. If it attacks really fast, like speaking of fighters' bindings fast, then this weapon could actually be pretty good, because you could just stand there, hold down the attack button and do a lot of damage by doing a lot of small attacks. Now, this could be useful for anything that procs off attacks, like crit chance, poison cloud, radiance, you know, all of those things. Now, the issue I'm having here is that you have to stand still while using it. For any of you who has played Apocalypse Plus like 18, 19 or 20, standing still means death. You cannot afford to stand still. This is why the axes are commonly used, not just because they have great damage and a 360-degree attack, but also because you can do fast attacks with stutter stepping in between. Like, you can always move a little bit in between your attacks, which creates distance between your opponents and yourself, and you can dodge arrows. And with this weapon you can't do that. You have to interrupt your attack, and the first hit of this weapon is actually a wind-up attack. So you strike it very slowly, you can see that in the footage here, and then you hold it down. I'm thinking that if they balance it right, it can be a very good weapon, but they have to be really considerate about how they balance these weapons. Because so far there were a lot of weapons introduced to the game that had a lot of potential, but the way they introduced these weapons, the way they were balanced, they just didn't work. Like, speaking of the Rapier class, for example. Really great weapon type, but sadly they fell so short on DPS that they were basically unusable. Then we have the Mechanized Saw Blade. Now you can see this one has long continuous attacks, and that actually makes me wonder what this really means. Like, you can hold it for longer. Can you not hold it on the normal version for as long as you want? Like, you have to interrupt these attacks. I'm confused. What I mean, continuous attacks is like you just keep hitting and hitting and hitting until you stop. And now they say it is long, so you add a duration to it. I'm just confused. I don't really understand. Or is it a longer reach, maybe? I don't really know what this means. If you have any ideas, let me know, but I'm so far not too excited about this item. Then we see artifacts. We have a thundering quiver here, which gives us thundering arrows. Now I'm excited what these will do. Maybe when you hit an enemy they create a chain lightning, doing damage to multiple enemies. It is a good alternative to the flame quiver, as it just adds damage, not damage per second, and the cooldown is the same, so you can maybe rotate them through. Then we have the spin blade, another artifact that they show us here. You basically throw it out and it comes back on the same way, dealing damage to all enemies it passes through on its way. So it deals damage twice. Just looking at the damage here, it looks a little bit low. The cooldown looks a little bit high, but I could imagine it being very fun to use. I just don't think it will be particularly strong. That's a little bit sad, because I would really like to play around with this artifact if it is good. The way I see it right now, I don't think it will be good for higher difficulties. Maybe you can have some fun on lower difficulties with it. Then we see the blasting fungus. Now this throws a couple of fungus in random directions. You can see that in the background. When they explode it deals AoE damage. The cooldown is very short. With a lot of cooldown reduction you can basically spam fire those, which could be interesting. But I don't think you can really use it against bosses or enchanted mobs because of the spread. Like, I don't think you can do enough damage on a couple of enemies or a single enemy. It might be useful to clear large groups of mobs, so when you are clearing a mission, maybe they see some play there. We'll have to see how much damage they do in the end, because right now the damage doesn't look too high, but maybe because it's many of them it will add up. We have to try it out. And then we have the power shaker. Now this one is interesting because this is something that I always wanted to have in the game. Now this one says that mobs will explode when you hit them. Now the question is, will it be the normal explosion that only if you kill them they explode, or will they explode when you hit them? If they really explode when you hit them, this thing could be really useful, especially in combination with a fast item. Like, just imagine this thing on fighters' bindings. When you hit them really fast and they all go boom, there could be something interesting here and there. I see at least some potential here, but I want to again say here that don't get too excited about these items. So far we have always seen great ideas on items in DLCs, but in the end there was not really something that changed up the meta a lot. Like, there was the accident with the pickaxes that we don't talk about anymore, and other than that the only real meta changing items that were newly introduced were Winter's Touch and the Shadow Walker armor, but the Shadow Walker armor itself didn't really do it. It was only because they introduced Dynamo and other rolling enchantments. And then they're going to show us a Slayer crossbow that shows hits multiple targets and powerful shots. For any of you who has a Slayer crossbow, this is something new to you, because so far it had powerful shots and then a chance to ricochet. So they actually changed some of the old items, and I'm guessing that this will not be the only case. So make sure to definitely check on new enchantments on old items. You probably have to drop them once again. The old ones will still be unchanged. But yeah, maybe we get a rebalance of other weapons as well. Like I just said, there are a few weapon types like katanas or the rapier classes that could definitely need a little bit of help, and maybe they listened to community feedback and did something here. I can't say for sure, but it could be. Now, here and there we could also see some new enchantments that will probably be going to end up in the game, but we didn't see any details on them, only the icons and the names. If you have any interesting ideas, you can let me know down in the comments below, but the video is long enough anyway, so I just don't want to get into speculating about enchantments now. Now, in the end, they're going to say that the most important part are we as the players, and that they want to deliver us a fun experience playing the game. Now, I think they utterly failed doing so with Apocalypse Plus, and I also think that they failed with the endgame motivation so far, giving us a fun experience in playing the game. The game, when it started, was really fun, because the game on the surface is very simple, it's very basic. You have basically 3 abilities that you can choose yourself, being the artifacts, and other than that you have 3 items that you can use, which is 1 bow, 1 melee weapon and 1 armor. You can enchant these with different enchantments that give you like a little bit added effects, but this is all very basic, and I was just like combining all of these things, having basically the freedom that you know from Minecraft type games, where you can just put everything together the way you want and just just use it and have fun. And this really worked well when the game came out first, but it stopped working when players were looking into the late game because there was just nothing to do. Like once you found the perfect combination, once there was nothing more to explore, once you've seen all the combinations that worked and chose the one that you liked the most, the game got pretty boring pretty fast. But with each new DLC it was just farming for the new gear as fast as possible and then just stop playing the game again. And now my final thoughts on the end game. It is hopefully going to be good. As they said it in here, it sounds a little bit like we get semi-random generated maps. We have a little bit of player influence. We can share the seeds when generating them, so this is something that I really like, as I said earlier. But maybe that gets old after a couple of times pretty fast. That could be that it will end up like daily trials, be exciting for a week and then go back to just not doing them anymore. I really hope that they have learned from Apocalypse Plus and the daily trials and how the community feedback was. And I'm still looking forward to this. I'm hoping that they will pull it through and that they will deliver a good one here. Let's see. I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited. And that is all for today. Thank you all for watching and I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.